and welcome to 20 Minutes. Today we're going to be discussing Indian state-sponsored terrorism out in the open. Is this a wake-up call for the West after what has happened in Canada? The murder of a leader of Khalistan movement on the Canadian soil by the raw agent. There are tense relations between India and Canada, and now with the US and the report by the Five Eyes, things are really getting intense between the two countries. Or is it a question? Is it really getting tense, or India is going to get away with this? We have with us former Ambassador Aizaz Chaudhry Saab, who's going to be commenting on the entire situation, how he sees all of this and India's position on the Western stage, I'd say. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Aizaz Chaudhry Saab, how would you first, diplomatically, just if you could explain it to our viewers, when something of this sort happens, that you've got an intelligence operation going on in another country, and which is mounting to an extreme offense, that killing a Canadian on the Canadian soil by a raw agent. Diplomatically, what kind of consequences can this lead to?
Well, in this day and age, I think committing this kind of transnational repression, murder, aggression, terrorism is a very, very unique event, and I think we do recognize that India has a special place at this time for the US because of its competition with China. But this is an assault on Canada's sovereignty and territorial integrity even. I think it will be although India might still get away with it, but it will still be very difficult. It's a major crisis. I think it just cannot be plastered over. I think this is a very serious crisis, I would say.
Oh, it is a serious crisis. Is there realization by the Indian government and the state and Prime Minister Modi that this is a real serious concern, especially after Secretary Blinken also sort of said that India must cooperate in terms of investigation?
I'm also a bit doubtful if India has really realized the gravity of the situation, because all their media is in a state of denial. They say that we were all terrorists, as if India was entitled to kill all the terrorists that it doesn't like anywhere in the Indian government simply shrugged off the allegation and straight away rejected it, with US Secretary of State Blinken also calling for India to cooperate in the investigation. In fact, the word I used, transnational repression, was the one that Secretary Blinken had used, that it is a very, very serious issue and India must cooperate. But it appears to me that hubris in India is not letting it accept the fact that somebody can ever call them out on this score, because they had been always speaking out or presenting themselves as a victim of cross-border terrorism, and here they are caught red-handed with their fingerprints on the murder of a Canadian national.
Right, and Ambassador, how do you see this? Pakistan has been, saying it, giving proofs, dossiers. We have Kulbhushan Yadav, that India sponsors terrorism. It exports terrorism. What they were doing in Afghanistan before the fall of Kabul, having so many embassies there, nobody in the West ever agreed on this. Nobody even paid heed. Does Pakistan need to put in there or reiterate what Pakistan has gone through because of the state terrorism sponsored by India within Pakistan? Or we need to just, stay out of this?
Well, I am not in favor of staying quiet on this. I think Pakistan should put on record the similar events that have occurred on our soil, starting with Kulbhushan Yadav. Right. And therefore, I think it is important for Pakistan to maintain the position it had taken. Of course, we should stay out of the India-Canada. Yeah. We have nothing to do with that. But we should share our own experience with the world community, especially the Five Eyes, through our own intelligence sources, that look, the similar things happened here in Pakistan and you were not believing us at that time. Now this is available to you. We don't have to play in the media for domestic gallery or for anyone else. I think that is counterproductive. Our intelligence sources, our intelligence agencies must cooperate with Five Eyes and tell them and share with them in confidence similar incidents that have happened on our soil committed by Indian intelligence.
Absolutely. So the similar events that you've just spoken about that occurred here by India, and the kind of terrorism, the unrest, the instability that they have always been looking for on the Pakistani soil. Do you really think that this, incident in Canada is now a wake-up call in the West?
Well, it might serve as a wake-up call. Many analysts that I have read, they tend to incline to say that India might actually get away with it because of the larger strategic game. But I think there has been bad blood now between India and Canada. It will be difficult to go. Virus, in a way, if I can use that word, is now moving to United Kingdom, where there is a feeling that there is a big Indian diaspora, including a big Sikh community. Will they be the target next time? Therefore, I think it's, even if India gets away with it, it will not get away with it without paying enough PR cost, which it had built. It had used the G20 and landing on moon and all that for a image building exercise, essentially. And here is one stroke with which it has nullified all that it had.
So, you just spoke about the diaspora that exists in the United Kingdom and the sort of protests that were observed after the killing of this leader of Khalistan movement. Are you also, waiting, or Pakistan looking at what the response from UK, Australia, France, Europe is going to be on this particular issue, and how far does actually US go? Because we've always been, that do more has always been for Pakistan. This time, is it going to be for India or not?
Well, not in that intensity, for two reasons. One, India is their strategic partner in their competition rivalry with China. And second, India is a large economy from which the West as a whole benefits a lot. And therefore, I don't see them sacrificing their national interests, which are strategic in nature, for the sake of one event. However, if India assures them, gives them assurance, public or private assurance, that they will not repeat this kind of transnational activity, then India might get away with it. But if India remains belligerent and remains adamant in not apologizing on this incident to the West, my sense is that things could go bad, even in relation to India and the US.
So a mere apology by a country that actually violates the sovereignty of another country is enough? Or is there some sort of action that Canada can demand which India should be taking?
The remark that I made is with regard to the US, because of the large strategic interests in which US has invested for the last 2 decades. US would probably look the other way if they are given an assurance that nothing will happen further in those 5 countries. But I think Canada will find it hard to overlook. I think UK will find it hard to overlook. I think US will also remain very careful. So will Australia and New Zealand. My sense is that India has made a very big mistake by committing this kind of high-handedness in a foreign land. Yes, they got away with it when they did that in Pakistan, but I think they have been a bit too much for
what is this? There is Khalistan movement dissent, and they feel that this is their right to go attack. I mean, and those people could be, that movement can be, or people belonging to that movement could be in any part of the country. But what about the West turning a blind eye what was happening in the occupied Kashmir? What happens to minorities in India, especially after Narendra Modi took over? Do you not feel that this is the time that Pakistan should also activate and use all its missions to actually reiterate that this is what India is all about? It's a fascist country.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. I think if they can go and target and kill a person they don't like in Canada, then you can imagine what they are doing to people, their own people in a way, not belonging to Hinduism within India. And that's the fear that Muslims and Christians and Kashmiris and all others have within India Well, Kashmir is an occupied territory, so it might be a slightly different case, but still the repression is the same. So we can see that for India, they are now cornered in that. So to that extent, you are right that Pakistan should take up either publicly or confidentially these matters with these important countries as well as the United Nations. But one thing is very important in that regard. Should we go on that route, we must have credible evidence, properly worked out, and also like prepare letters rogatory or something that they may have submitted to Interpol, and these kind of dossiers are required which have proper evidence that should be shared if it is required, either publicly or confidentially with these countries, whatever the government decides. But we should not simply stay quiet.
Okay, so and what about, as you said, that maybe India may get away with all of this because of the economic and the strategic interest that the US has. But do you really think that it's going to be a unanimous decision given for India that, okay, we will accept the apology by Canada, by UK, by Australia or New Zealand and US, these Five Eyes? Or you think it could be, UK may come up with a very different response to it, and probably Australia, New Zealand, another different response, and US would be entirely different?
The allegation has stemmed from Canada, although it appears that it was coordinated with all the other agencies. But primarily it is India it is Canada which has cast these allegations, and therefore Canada will back them up with the evidence that it needs to. Normally such evidence is not presented in. Normally this is shared with fellow intelligence agencies in confidence because it can compromise the sources.
Right.
And therefore normally this is not done. Even when Pakistan and India had the joint anti-terrorism mechanism, and I had the opportunity to lead some of them, we used to share these folders, these dossiers in confidence. Because we wanted to act against the people who were acting against Pakistan. So I would say that if India cuts down its rhetoric and adopts a more tone which is more congenial to some kind of outcome, some kind of resolution of this issue, then yes. If India maintains its present attitude, now I think crisis will not go away, because today it is one Sikh. There are several other Sikhs living in Canada in very high positions in United Kingdom, even in the US and elsewhere. So I don't think India will get away with its hubris this time. I think they don't realize that howsoever tall they may think in their own mind, it is relative to the respect that they will receive from all these countries whom they consider as their strategic partners. So no, it is a very serious crisis, and I think it would be better for India if it takes it seriously.
The way that you had also mentioned earlier, the way the Indian media has been behaving on this particular issue, and it's more than hawkish. The way they have, some of them have been threatening of probably attacking Canada. There was one of the external, former ambassadors saying that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's landing in Delhi for the G20 summit in Delhi, he's been charged with having, cocaine in his plane, and he was too high to actually attend that G20 dinner. I don't know where he's getting this from, but this is what he said on national TV. So all of this, when you actually look at it, do you really think that, whatever the media, the narrative that media is building is also trickling down from the state, and it's not an independent view that the media over there is taking?
One is really surprised by seeing the media of India going the way they are against Canada. Some of them are totally outlandish, as the one example you gave, or another one saying that we'll nuke Canada. But then there are even the relatively saner media outlets that I have seen. Even they are in a state of denial that how can India do this kind of thing? Well, now it turns out that when India was doing all these things, you did not believe us. And this time around, I think slowly and gradually they will accept it. But as of now, I think they either under fear of Modi or just because they don't want to bring further bad name to their country. But whatever is the reason, even the saner Indian media is out of sync with reality.
All right. Lastly, I would just want to know that, before the fall of Kabul, as I had mentioned earlier, we knew that RAW was playing a role, NDS was playing a role in bringing instability in Pakistan, exporting terrorism here, especially in Balochistan and areas of Sindh. Do you really think that right now we don't have such fears from India, from this side, eastern side?
From the western side,
Yeah.
from Indian activities in Afghanistan. No, at the moment, India is in the process of reconciling its position, its contacts with the Taliban. They have not yet established themselves firmly. But in the past, they have been doing that because of the philosophy they followed, which is called double squeeze, squeezing Pakistan from east and west. My sense is that if the opportunity arises, India would probably use their long-time allies in Northern Alliance, the erstwhile Northern Alliance, to do something. But as of now, I don't think India has much influence on that. I think India should now worry about the overall posture it has taken on this very serious matter. And I think they better bring the temperature down internally and externally. Otherwise, I think this could linger on and cause much bigger trouble.
So even in the future, even after, whatever happens and if India is sensible enough to bring the temperature down and actually, accept what they have done, even after that, do you think it is going to be easy overall for Indians? Because we see how Pakistanis face problems in terms of visa, in terms of immigration, in terms of businesses, if they want to set up in different countries, especially those who believe that, Pakistan is probably sponsoring terrorism. Do you think it's going to be easy for Indians? Because we already see that, so many students are facing issues in Canada, their visas have been cancelled, and it's not going to be easy, I think, for them now to travel to Canada.
I would still differentiate between what is happening in Canada and the rest of the Five Eyes countries, mainly because the others would like to use this opportunity to get solid assurances from India,
right,
that they would not move any further in this direction. And if India is able to apologize behind the scene, bring the temperatures down, bring the rhetoric down, I don't think they will take this kind of strict measures. But one thing that an unintended consequence of all that is that Pakistan's case has become credible. That Pakistan was, after all, not complaining out of compulsive hostility with India or anything like that. But Pakistan was saying the fact, the pinch, that hurt that Pakistan was feeling. So therefore, I think now if India levels allegation against Pakistan of cross-border terrorism, whereas there is actually none, there will be less takers, there will be less favorable ears to listen to.
Thank you so much, Aizaz Chaudhry Sir, former ambassador, for being with us and explaining the situation that India is in right now and the tense relations between Canada and India. That's all for now. Take care and goodbye.
Bye-bye.